These guys are former All-Stars, but we thought they were done. Well, not everyone thought so, but a large portion of the fan base did. All of them used to be on top of the world, and some of them suffered numerous major injuries throughout their careers, to the point where it was unlikely they'd ever return and contribute to their team. Others slowly dropped off, and it was questionable if they could adapt to the modern game. But they're still here, they're still kicking it. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's talk about 4 NBA players, all of whom were former All-Stars, some of the best players in the league at their peak. And while many of their peers are long gone, these guys persisted. Not as good as they used to be, but still good enough to get valuable minutes. What made them stay in the league for so long? We'll discuss that. Alright, let's get started. Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. Over 60% of my viewers aren't. If you like the content, drop a sub or a like, and thank you so much for the support. Dwight Howard. There's been multiple times in his NBA career where many people believed he would not return, and I don't know about you, but I thought he'd be retired by now. After his back problems in LA, I didn't expect him to bounce back and become an All-Star in Houston again. After a devastating season with the Wizards, where he missed all but 9 games in the season due to various complications with his back, his hamstrings too, causing severe nerve irritation, plus getting another major surgery, and having that saga where everyone laughed at him for having a sore ass. The mockery was unwarranted, but expected. It's Dwight after all. It was the tail end of Dwight's career. Right after the surgery, Dwight went into rehab, and he described it as one of the worst moments of his entire life. Right now, the only thing I can do for rehab is just walk. Anybody who has had back surgery, they understand that. You know, for the first month and a half, you can't lift weights, you can't run, you can't do anything but basically walk. However, once again, he bounced back, and here he is once again, still playing a valuable role on a championship contending squad in Philly. I don't think he gets enough credit for his perseverance. We hear it all the time for guys like Derrick Rose, who also overcame some tremendous odds, and every NBA fan continues to root for him. But Howard? I mean, he doesn't get the same sympathy, unfortunately, even if his journey has been just as rough. Gone are the days of him leading the league in rebounds and blocks and anchoring the best defense in the league. He's gotten a ton of criticism, everything from his off-court antics and being demanding on the court, ostracizing his teammates. We've heard the rumors of his confrontations with Steve Nash, where it was speculated Dwight did not want to run pick and rolls and preferred to post up, which he was much worse at. Mike D'Antoni once said, "It's in an area that he's not loving right now. He wants to dominate a different way in the low post and all that, but he needs to get better there, and he will. But his greatness is in defense and being a physical force in the pick and roll. I think he'd be better served if he embraces that." A similar circumstance happened in Houston with James Harden. Even with their pick and roll heavy offense and equipped with one of the best at running it, Howard still had difficulty conforming to that style of play. It led to another falling out. Not only that, but long before any of this happened, he was criticized for getting Stan Van Gundy fired in Orlando. There was a lot to dislike about Howard, and that's why, even today, many of us don't appreciate him for still being around. Certainly not in the same way we appreciate other former stars. Howard is not as fast as he once was, he doesn't jump as high anymore, but defensively, he's still holding his ground, and believe it or not, he's a very smart guy. His defensive IQ is one of the best of his generation. Offensively, he adjusted, and now most of his points come off the pick and roll or putbacks. He's still a fantastic rebounder, that never changed. Rajon Rondo. Rondo comes from an era of more traditional point guards. He's a pass-first player, a true leader and coach on the floor. He guides his team on defense and calls out the rotations, telling his teammates where they need to be. Those have always been Rondo's strengths, but for a point guard who used to struggle to shoot and at times too hesitant to score, it seemed like he fell behind the modern trend of NBA point guards. In a time where scoring is now mandatory, we saw the explosion of guys like Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry. Rondo became an anomaly. Did he simply become outdated? Will he fail to adjust and fall out of the league? It certainly looked like it at one point. After the doctors discovered he tore his ACL, that drastically sapped him of his athleticism, forcing him to adapt. Then, after a tumultuous period with the Mavericks where he butted heads with Rick Carlisle and basically gave up on the team, other teams were hesitant in signing him. He was still getting contracts though. Even then, he still continued to make an impact on the floor, on every team he's been on. Once known as a stubborn, brash, hard-headed guy who refused to believe he was ever wrong, Rondo left that behind and transformed his entire persona. Since 2016, he played for 6 different teams, all of whom greatly benefited from his presence. He became a mentor for the young guys and embraced his new role wherever he went. We've heard numerous stories from the Kings, the Bulls, the Pelicans, and Hawks. The young players really look up to him for advice, and he got along great with everyone after that incident in Dallas. He won another championship with the Lakers, and now, despite continuing to be a journeyman, he provides a positive contribution to any team he's on. Carmelo Anthony. Okay, I'll admit, I've given Melo a lot of flack recently. Calling him washed and saying he wasn't adapting his game properly. But bear in mind, that doesn't take away from the fact that he's still here, after so many years of people doubting him. Especially after his time in OKC, where it looked like his years were limited. That became even more apparent in Houston. Throughout the entire season there, Melo and the organization kept butting heads. He had a prior relationship with Mike D'Antoni, and it wasn't too hot. At that point, Melo still hasn't accepted that he was no longer a star, and still strived to be one. He played just 10 games for the Rockets before parting ways with the team. Daryl Morey described it like this: "He accepted every role asked by D'Antoni, but the fit we envisioned when Carmelo chose to sign with the Rockets has not materialized. Therefore, we thought it was best to move on, as any other outcome would have been unfair to him." For the rest of the season, he remained unsigned. His career was on the brink of ending. The Blazers took a chance on him. At first, they were unsure, but slowly and steadily, Melo eased himself into the team's offense and carved a new niche for himself. After a decent first season in Portland, Melo decided to re-sign and come back, because Blazers GM Neil Olshey told him something that really meant a lot to him. Olshey told Melo he wanted to, quote, protect his legacy. In an interview, Melo talked about this encounter. "In this league and in sports period, you don't hear things like that. You don't hear an organization or the president of a professional organization come to a player and sit down and let them know, we want to protect your legacy. I already knew what I wanted to do. I knew I was comfortable here in Portland." And last up is Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose initially gave me the idea for this video. I wanted to talk about players, specifically former All-Stars who so many people gave up on, and Rose is a perfect fit for this topic. You guys remember there was a time when nobody ever thought Rose would return? The whole, hashtag the return saga? It lasted for years. We didn't think he would even return. After tearing his ACL, he came back and suffered another injury, this time to his right knee, and he was forced to undergo another surgery. Then he suffered numerous hamstring and other leg problems. And then in early 2015, he tore his meniscus in his right knee, the same knee he tore his ACL a few years prior. It was honestly just a terrible sequence of events that robbed him of his best years. Then he also had a moment in Cleveland where he got a brutal ankle injury and left the team for his own sanity. According to him, he wanted to contemplate his own future and was frankly mentally exhausted of being constantly injured and going through rehab time and time again. Rose persevered and kept pushing forward. When he recorded that 50-point game in Minnesota, it was the most emotional moment of that entire season. Everyone supports Rose. We all know he lost everything, desperately hanging on to his NBA career by a thread. For one night, we saw him play like how we always imagined. His career started going downhill at the young age of 23. we truly never saw his prime. While his career did not go as planned, he's still Derrick Rose. Occasionally, we still see flashes of what he could have been, even if it's not on a daily basis. Anyway, that's all folks. Those were 4 former NBA stars who, at one point, were desperately holding on to their NBA careers. Now, they're still going strong and deserve all the credit in the world for their persistence. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Which guys do you think their careers should have ended years ago, but they proved you wrong? Which other players can you think of? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.